My promise to you today is that you will leave today's session with two things. Number one, a super clear on your vision and your goals for 2025. And number two, you'll have an exact step-by-step path to achieving your vision and those goals. And obviously, before we get started, I do have some ground rules that are very important. Number one, you must have an open mind. A lot of people go like, that can never happen to me. I don't believe it. I'm different. My situation is different. Be open-minded that anything can possibly happen. Number two, have a place to take notes. We just mentioned it. Make sure you have your work pad in front of you, some place to take notes. Number three, be in a quiet place. Don't have any distraction around you, and make sure you're on camera. You get the most out of it when you are prompt and on camera. For those of you who do not know who I am, is it okay if I share my story? Can I get a thumbs up that I can share my story real quick? We're going to be really fast through all this. My story starts at 21 years old in the world of entrepreneurship. I was a two-time college dropout. I barely graduated high school. I honestly was shocked that they somehow managed to keep me in high school for as long as they did. At 21, I had a 550 credit score because I literally kept putting more and more things on my credit card. I was very into self-development, but I wasn't making any money, so I basically lived off my credit cards at that time. And I had about $2,000 to my name. And I had been through many years of suicidal thoughts and depression. I mean, honestly, no one would have bet on me throughout my life whatsoever to be who I am today. And obviously, today, I've been a part of over $600 million worth of real estate transactions, over $13 million in commissions in the last 8 years. We have $18.5 million on assets under management. And this month, we'll do a little over $400,000 in GCI for about $40 million in production. And obviously, I feel like I'm just getting started. So today, I feel like I'm pretty qualified to help you make an extra 100, 200, 300 grand next year. So let's dive into it. Obviously, these are just some checks that we've had in the past. You can check it all out on social media, obviously, as well. And obviously here today, I'm here to share with you what I've paid over $100,000 in courses, coaches, and conferences throughout my life to save you guys a lot of time and a lot of money. So to start things off, very, very important, let's reflect a little bit on 2024. In the chat box down below, I'd love for you to rate your year, 2024, from 1 to 10. And just put a number in the chat box down below. Try not to do 7. I feel like everyone says 7. And try to be humble and accurate and honest about where you feel like you're at. Drop your number in the chat box down below. And obviously, the whole purpose of this is the more honest and transparent you can be, the more results you'll see in your life. Thank you guys. I'm seeing a bunch of different numbers here. Listen, the whole purpose of today is to make the adjustments so that we can see a better year. Now, just like we're mentioning now, what would make it a 10? What would make it a 10, guys? I want you to write down in the chat, take a moment just to quickly think, what would make it a 10? So many of you had messaged here about the number. What would make it a 10, right? And I appreciate your honesty here. This is very important to think about. Because again, like a lot of us are like, oh, well, I think I had a 5 or a 2 or a 4 or a 7, a 9, whatever it is. But what would make it a 10? What to you would make it a 10? What would have to change in order for it to be a 10? I see purchasing an investment property, stability, closing a deal every single month, consistency, consistently getting deals under contract into the closing table, 100% clarity on systems and processes and sales volume, more closed deals, consistency on social media. So let's make sure that 2025 is a 10, maybe the first 10 of your career. And today we're going to go through my 6 pillars to a successful business plan. Number 1 is vision. What do you want and why? And this is incredibly important. And most people have never been asked this question before. Have you ever been asked what your vision is? Have you ever been asked that before? And if you haven't, I'm going to ask it to you for the very first time. I'm going to ask you what your 20-year vision is. I'm 30 years old, so it'll be like saying like, hey, what is my vision for 50-year-old Henry? What is the goal, the vision, right? What is my vision? What is my life going to look like at 50-year-old Henry? So what I want is, right? So you can write this in the chat box. You can write it on your notepad in front of you, wherever you want to put it. And obviously this is recorded to make sure that you'll be able to rewatch this over and over again. But I want you guys to think about this. What I want is, this is no holding back. I want you to really think about, what do you want from your life? If you could ask life of anything you could possibly desire to have that in 20 years, what do you want your life to look like? Many of you are going to be starting families, or your kids will be in their 20s. Many of you, think about everything you could possibly desire and write in the chat box down below. What do you want? Right? What do you want your 20-year future self to have that you don't have today? What do you want them to experience? So we're gonna make sure we ask this question. I want you guys to be thinking about it. This might be the first time you've ever been asked this question, obviously, or even thought about it. And this should include bucket list items. Describe how your life will be waking up in 20 years. What does life look like? What family goals do you have? I'm gonna give you guys a quick 2 minutes to go for it. Think about what Fortune 500 CEOs are thinking about. They're thinking about their company what's the 20-year vision for this company? Where can we take this company? Think about Tim Cook. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. Elon Musk's 20-year vision is, he wants to colonize Mars in his lifetime. Who thinks about this crazy shit? It's amazing. So it's like, think about what you could possibly accomplish in the next 20 years, right? Everything you want to accomplish, everything you want to experience, put it down, write it down. There is no wrong answer. I'm just reading off some things here. Kids' college paid for, raising capital to acquire $50 million in assets under management, personally own over 100 units, live and work from wherever we want. I love that. I want to be financially free. I want to be able to spend more time and have experiences with your boys. I love to hear that. While leaving a legacy. Amazing. 20 years, I want financial freedom. Not working, having money work for me, spending my time and money with family. I love it. And we can go on and on. So that's time. What I want you guys to think about now, what else are you missing out on? What specifically are you not writing down? What are you scared about writing down, right? What fears are coming up for you right now? Right? Because the more specific you can be, the more specific you can be with what has to happen in order to achieve it. Because we can all say, I want to make more money. We can all say, I want to have more time. What specifics would make you excited? And the more specific you can be, the more specific you know if you have it or not. It's like, I want to have more money. Here's $1, right? You made more money, right? Like, specifically, what does it look like? If you're open to sharing, obviously drop it in the chat box down below. I love to hear the shares. And now we're going to come back to that list in just a minute. Now let's get clear on the other two pieces of vision. Okay, very important parts of vision, which is your why. Why do you want these things, right? Some of you are saying more time, some of you are saying more money, some of you are saying, assets you're going to own, different things with your family, right, that you want to create. Why is that important to you, right? Because I want to share something really quickly. During many aspects of my life where I've hit a new low, right? Many years ago when I went broke, many years ago when I was at the lowest points of my life, what kept me going in the business, when everyone else would have been like, oh yeah, if I quit, no one would have cared. I could have quit and it wouldn't have mattered. The only thing that kept me going was my why, which was the voice of my future kids. I could hear my future daughter's voice, and you're not going to give up on me, are you? Right? I don't have kids today, so it's it's like I could hear their voice. I can hear them talking to me. You're not going to give up on me, are you? I thought you were better than that, Dad. What about the legacy you want to live, Dad? It's like, that's, to me, is what drives me, right? My future kids is what drives me, right? So what is your why? Because life is going to get hard. There's going to be moments where you're going to want to quit. There's going to be days where that suck. You're going to feel like you got punched in the face several times, right? Deals are going to fall apart. Everything is not just sunshine and roses as a salesperson or an entrepreneur. It is going to be difficult. To live a 1% life, that means you have to do things 99% of the world won't do. If you want a 1% life, you have to be willing to make sacrifices that the 99% aren't willing to make. So there are going to be tough times ahead. And the reasons why you get up in the morning, you chase your vision, you don't give up, and you continue even when times get tough, right? My future family, like I said, is my why, and making sure I reach my ultimate potential. So write down your why. What is your why? What gets you up in the morning? What keeps you going when you have a bad day at work? What is your why that you can put a note on the wall, and hey, no matter what, I'm not stopping. It's like, I'm going to keep going until it happens, until I get the result, period. I don't care how long it takes. That's how I feel. And this can be, again, you need to be clear and concise. It's one sentence. It's a concise statement that just will keep you going. What is that for you? Seeing your 3-year-old and 1-year-old son, they depend on me. They look up to me. There is no plan B. I freaking love it. Be a provider for my future family. Love it. And guys, it gets me choked up when I talk about my future kids. It gets me choked up thinking about what I want to create for them, right? It should be such a powerful freaking thing. It should be such a powerful thing that it evokes so much emotion from you when you think about it. I'm going to say that's time. And if you're open to sharing, obviously drop it in the chat. I love to see these. These are very, very important. Be the best version of myself, be an example, and be a leader for your kids and for your family. I love it. Now let's get back to goals. Now this is going to be an important one, okay? We're going to get back to some goals now. Now we have your 20-year vision. You have an idea of where you want to be in 20 years. You have an idea of all the things you want to create and experience in 20 years future you. And we're going to bring it down to 2025, and let's write down some things that you want to accomplish in just the next 12 months. So obviously this list should be more bucket list items of things you want to create, things you want to accomplish, how much money you want to earn, how much you're going to spend, because obviously you have to understand, you need to know where every dollar is going. You can't just say, I want to make $100,000. If you spend $8,000 a month to live, making 100 grand just isn't enough. If you spend 8 grand a month, you're basically spending, that means your bills are 96 grand a year, and you're not gonna have 4 grand for taxes and everything else miscellaneous, right? So you need to come up with like how much you want to spend, how much you want to invest, any family goals or anything else like that. I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes. Write it down. What is the goals that you have for 2025? Let's make it happen. Net income target is $500,000, 8 to 10 closed deals, average deal size of 5 to 10 million. Improve lead to close ratio by 10 to 15%. 13 commercial closings at 1.5 million average, 1 to 2 commercial properties acquired. 1 to 3 home run deals, new listing per month. Now, most importantly about the goals is how you organize them, right? How you organize your goals is very, very important because a lot of people just say, oh, I want to make more money. Making more money isn't just a financial, it's actually financially not tied, right? Saying I want to make $100,000 next year or whatever your number is, $1 million bucks, is actually not a financially tied goal. It's actually more about the schedule and habits and ways of being, right? So it's like, okay, well, it's like, you know, because a financial goal is something you want to buy. That's a car, that's a house, it's a watch, right? That's things you can accomplish by earning a specific amount of money. Or, you know, a earning goal, right, and growth of the business actually is related to a lot of other things. So we're going to dive into the different ways that everything can be organized. For scheduling, you know, obviously, like I said, financials, you can buy it. Scheduling means you have to allocate time for it, right? So scheduling is like working out. Like, hey, I want to be in a really fit shape, right? I want to be in great shape. Well, okay, well, that's a part of scheduling. You need to put time on the calendar for it. So before you put business meetings, before you do everything else, you need to put, hey, I'm going to work out from this time to this time because this is most important to me. Habits, adjusting habits and lifestyle. You know, that could also be related to diet. That could also be related to your relationship, right? Habits in your relationship can be like, okay, think about it like this. I want to be in a better relationship with my wife. Okay, well, what does that look like? It's probably not financial, right? You can't just buy a better relationship with your wife, but you can save more money so you can go on nicer vacations. You can save more money to buy, you know, let's say better gifts. You can schedule, you can put date nights in your calendar. Habits, what you say matters, right? How many times did I tell her that I love her or him, right? How many times, did I write a handwritten note? Am I putting specific things in place every single day, every week to make sure I enhance my relationship? Ways of being. How is my ways of being around my significant other, right? Or even around my kids, right? All of these can be adjusted. So remember, I want you to organize any goals you have on your chart. What is it tied to? You're going to see that some things are possibly 1, 2, or 3 things, maybe even all 4. Organize them. What is a financial goal you have? What is a schedule-related goal, a habit-related goal, or a ways of being goal, okay? Because what's important is that, and you're going to notice, all of these are going to be tied to most of your goals. It's not just saying like, hey, I'm going to do the same thing next year and hope for a different result. That's the definition of insanity. We are going to change and shift and adapt in our ways of being, in our schedules, in our habits, in our financial thermostats to make sure we can see different results. So you're going to every single one of your goals, you're going to add a financial attachment, schedule attachment, habit attachment, or the ways of being attachment to say, hey, if I want to accomplish this, I need to change this. And maybe all of them. I'll give you guys another quick 30 seconds to do that. It's either financially related, schedule related, habit related, ways of being related, and it can be, I'd say at least 3 of the 4 minimum. Right? It can be 3 of the 4 or all of the above. I agree. All right, so let's dive in. So last step for the organization is if you could only choose one goal, the overarching goal, the most important shift in adjustment in your life, if you could only choose one, what would that be? One, that by accomplishing this one specific goal, you would feel more accomplished, happier, and more proud than any other goal on your list, right? Because this goal might impact the rest of the goals. What is that one goal? Drop it in the chat box down below. What is it? If you could just focus on just one, and I want you to be specific. What is that goal? The more specific you can be, the better. Now, most of the time, this is typically, at least what I've experienced, is it comes down to your financial goal, right? What amount of money are you going to make that will change everything in your life? It is typically one of the most common, most focused goals that people have, which is, however, if money is the secondary goal for you, what goal would make you the happiest in achieving? Completely respect that as well. Most commonly, I do see financial goals being the number one. So drop your financial goal in the chat box down below. And let's get focused. Because obviously, how much easier does it feel to have just focused on one goal? And who's ready to knock their goal out of the park? Drop a thumbs up in the chat box down below, or just say a yes in the chat box down below to make it easy. We're going to break down exactly what needs to happen now to do it. I have a gift for you guys. You guys can scan this real quick. Take a moment to scan this. This is our 2025 business tracker. I custom built this out for all of you guys. I'm actually going to jump into it right now. So this is a 2025 business tracker. I custom built this all special just for you guys. All you have to do here at the very bottom, very important, don't touch anything. You don't need to touch anything else. It is going to work just for you. All you have to do though, by the way, is make a copy. Do not edit. You're not going to be able to edit this copy. It's just on viewer form. But what you're going to do here is going to be very cool. All you're going to do is say like, okay, well, let's just say your average commission percentage is 3%. Your average deal size, let's say it's $2 million in your market, whatever it is. Your company split is, let's just say it's 80%, an 80-20 split. Let's say your bills at home are $6,000 a month. And let's say you want to add an additional, let's say $100,000 to your bank account at the end of the year. So this is add, how much money you want to add to your bank account, right? Now, obviously you can invest this, you can do whatever you want with this, but adding to your bank account. So whether it's $0 or $1 million in your checking account, how much more would you like to put in your checking account at the end of the year? This will spit out a number, an earnings goal. It will tell you, okay, you need to create, in order to have all these boxes checked, okay, you need to earn $322,500 in total GCI or fees, right? Obviously, we use some wholesaling in there as well, but $322,500 this coming year in 2025 in order to achieve that goal. It'll tell you how many deals you have to close at an average deal percentage that you put in here. It looks like it's rounding, so let's add a decimal. 5.4, okay, cool. You do 5.4 deals, about $11 million in production at the average commission of 3%. Will put you at 322.5. It'll tell you roughly how many calls you need to make, how many conversations you need to be having, how many leads you need to generate per month. This is all per month, by the way. Written offers you need to have. This is true offers, which means you spoke to a buyer. They wrote up an offer on a property, 13 this month, and you need to have at least 1.3 of them executed, right? To get at least 1.3 of them signed off and executed, and how many hours of prospecting I'd highly recommend per day. It has it all in here. And all you're going to do is you're going to, as your day goes on, you're going to just log your information to put your name at the top. And you'll just log all your information, right? Exactly what, how many calls you made, how many conversations, new leads, what lead lists you prospected, how many LOIs you sent out, how many got accepted, and how many hours you called. You can add in the gross commission and pending volumes up here. And all you're going to do is you're going to plug it in, right? And you're going to plug in, okay, for this month, I've had this many calls, this many conversations, this many leads, this many true offers, this many executed letters of intent, and this is how many hours on average I prospected. And then what you can do is you can adjust the conversions, right? It's like, okay, well, I only spoke to 8% of people on average last month. I had actually 12% of leads generated of the amount of conversation I had. I wrote up, only 20% of the true offers, right? Whatever it is, you're gonna map it to you, because then it will break down for you, okay, based on what you want to accomplish, what you need to actually do, right? And you can continue to edit it to make sure it is right on the money to say like, oh, okay, still to accomplish my goal, this is what I have to do. So all you have to do is make sure you plug in all the numbers you need and track all the numbers here. It's already set up for January. It's ready to rock and roll. When you are, all you have to do is plug in everything here for the yellow character, criteria here in the yellow. You don't have to touch anything else, and it will do everything else for you. You just gotta follow it. So let's get back to the presentation here. Let's get on to number 2, skills. Skills, habits, and the compound effect. Let's dive in. So every skill you have today and every skill you will need in order to achieve your goal creates a compound effect in your life. And let me explain what I mean. If you have a skill currently for talking to people, or the ability to do math quickly, or even public speaking or in sales, all these skills compound. Talking to people, which if you have the ability to talk to people, you have the gift of gab, right? Many of us have heard that before, maybe from our parents back in the day. But talking to people will typically mean that person is going to have a little bit higher ability to have in sales, right? They're going to have a higher sales opportunity. If you do fast math, it obviously gives you the ability to have shortened time frames in tasks like underwriting, like we talk about this a lot. If you have a great ability for public speaking, you're going to be able to have maybe better conversions if you're on stage or in front of larger groups. What skills will you need to achieve your goals in 2025, right? So I want to have a team of 10,000 agents in 20 years, right? In 20 years, I want to have a team of 10,000 agents. That's my goal, okay? So I obviously know that one skill that I have to personally work on, and what I try to work on every day, at least a little bit, I study books, I watch, content all the time, I listen to podcasts about it, is my leadership skills. And I am constantly looking on improving my leadership skills, because I'm not going to have a team of 10,000 agents if I'm not a great leader. So let's talk about some skills that you can be working on, right? Well, leadership, communication, problem solving, time management, negotiation, strategic thinking, right? Project management, financial literacy, sales and marketing, networking. I mean, I can go on and on here. What specific skills do you get to work on this year, right? Take a quick look at this list. And obviously there can be many, many others that you can possibly think of. Write in the chat box down below, what is going to be one skill that you're going to work on this year? What's one specific skill you're going to become the best in the world at? You're going to become world class at one skill only, what would it be? Drop it in the chat below. What is your skill? I'm going to give you guys a minute here just to think about it. Very important. Remember, we're writing down all the skills you need to achieve your goals, and obviously one of them is going to be the one we're going to focus on. Negotiations. I see a lot of that. Underwriting, social media, communication, and obviously now let's talk about habits. Let's define a habit. For habits, it's a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. So habits, obviously a lot of people can think about, if I said, what's a habit you have? A lot of people can think about bad habits, right? Like eating junk food, smoking, doing drugs. Like we can easily think about bad habits, but what are good habits do you have in your life right now, and habits that you want to create for 2025 that will put you in a powerful position to succeed? Obviously, we talk about bad habits like I was just mentioning, right? What habits do you have you need to give up, right? What right now in order to pull away from your, what habits are pulling you away from your goals, right? Everyone has habits that are pushing you towards your goals, and everyone has habits that are pulling them away from their goals, right? Drinking, smoking, partying, poor diet, social media, gambling, procrastination. These are all bad habits that are pulling you farther and farther away from your goals, right? And then we have good habits, like obviously like simple things like brushing your teeth. But what skills are you doing regularly that will positively affect your business? Are you prospecting every day? Are you putting yourself on social media every single day? Are you recruiting daily? Are you underwriting deals daily, right? Are you constantly trying to meet one new person a day? What are are you working out every day? Skills and habits obviously are also affected by your schedule. If you want to enhance your ability to enhance your skill sets, enhance your habits, scheduling has one of the biggest impacts on it, right? Time allocation. How much time daily are you spending specifically on that skill or habit? Somebody who prospects for 5 minutes a day versus somebody who prospects for 5 hours a day is going to drastically see a difference. Same thing of working out for 5 minutes a day versus 5 hours a day. Spending 5 minutes with your kids a day versus 5 hours a day with your kids. All of it compounds, right? And obviously will continue to affect all those skills and habits. Effort and allocation. How much effort are you exerting and are you committed to? The person who is sitting on a dialer, their feet up, right? They're relaxed. They're not focused. They're multitasking. They're watching YouTube videos while they're dialing. Maybe they're eating while they're dialing. The person who's just not paying attention. You're not focused. How do you believe that someone like that is going to compete with somebody who is 100% focused, zero distractions, no window in their room? They're standing up when they're making their calls. They got their script in front of them. They're 100% present in the moment when they're dialing the phones. It's going to be very hard to compete with that kind of person. So let's give you an exact example. Person A versus person B. They're both going to make 3 hours of prospecting. Obviously, they're both in real estate. At the end of 1 year, who would make more? Well, obviously, with this information, it's hard to tell. Let's give you some more. Let's say that person A, if we just talked about productivity, like we just talked about as an example, they're very lax. They're not focused, right? They might be an unbelievable salesperson, but they have very poor productivity. They're very lazy. They're not focused, right? And person B is 100% focused 100% of the time, same skill level, same ability, expertise, persistence. Who would make more money at the end of the year? Well, you might say person B. Well, let's just say about how much more money would they make? Because you could have 3 hours of prospecting, because everyone says like, oh yeah, I make plenty of calls. I spend 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 5 hours a day making my calls. Okay, let's break it down. Person A, who says that they make 3 hours of calls, typically I sometimes hear, like I've actually heard this before from people come to me like, oh yeah, I'm like, how many calls do you make on average a day? People have specifically told me, okay, they're like, oh, I make 5 calls a day. 5 calls a day. Do you realize that that's not even conversations? That's not how many people you even speak to. How on planet Earth do you expect to make any money whatsoever? But I just want to show you the difference of somebody who on the other side here is making 300 calls a day. Now you can take 5 or 300, you can do 10 and 600. It does not matter what the numbers are, but let's break them down. Let's say that we spoke to 20% of people on average, 1 person on the for person A, 60 people for person B. You set 0 appointments at a 5% conversion for person A, and person B sets at a 5% conversion 3 appointments a day, right? Or you can call it 3 leads a day, 3 whatever you want to call it, right? Person A here, who do you think is going to make more money, right? This is what happens on a regular basis. They say so many people are like, oh, next year is going to be the year, and then they change absolutely nothing about their habits. They don't change their schedule. They don't make adjustments in their business. But let's talk about exactly the difference specifically, because obviously it could be any sales job. It doesn't even make any difference what the career is. But let's break down the exact numbers here. After a year, here's the annual breakdown. 780 hours of calling each. Person A makes 1,300 calls. Person B makes 78,000 calls. Conversations, 260 for person A throughout the year. Person B, 15,600 conversations. Person A, they set up a 13 total appointments, or let's say you can call them leads, appointments, you can call them whatever you want. 13. Over here, 780. Sales made 1.3. They made 10% of those closed. Same thing over here, 10% of those closed. Who do you think made substantially more money? Obviously person B. But how much more money does person B make just by being a little bit more focused and productive during their work hours? Well, let's look. 1.3 to 78. Guys, it's 60 times more money. 60 times more money. I'm not talking about 3 times or 5 times or 6 times. 60 times more money. Just by being a little bit more focused, by being a little bit more present, by being a little bit more focused on the metrics that matter. And then you can obviously see why skills are so important, but also at the same time, if you're not focused on the right activities, how they can affect everything in your business. Obviously, I just gave you an example how one shift, one metric tracking, one skill can give you a 60 ROI. Imagine if you could have 4, 5, or 6 of them in your business. Now imagine obviously if you could strategically know what skills will give you a 60% ROI in your next year. So let's just go back to the list of skills that you wrote down. You wrote down a bunch of different skills, right? You had put some of them in the chat box down below. Is this skill absolutely required to achieve my goals? As in I can't achieve it if I don't have it, right? I can't achieve my goal without this skill. Does this skill also have a compound effect? I get a multiple on my effort. The better I become, the better I get, the more results that I can achieve. And then is this a skill that 80% of top achievers in my line of work, call it real estate, have? And you need to break it down. My top 11 skills, right? My top 11 skills. I wanted to write them down. Communication, sales, financial literacy. These are all to get massive multiples. These are skills that will give you massive multiples in your business, okay? Sales, by the way, they are not in any specific order, by the way. Emotional intelligence, very important one. Problem solving, happens all the time. We are problem solving machines. Leadership, like I talked about before, to lead a team, you must become a powerful leader. Productivity, you must be a focus in everything that you do. Decision making, very important. Too many people take too much time to make decisions, right? You need to be able to make faster decisions. Enrollment, learning the skill set of enrollment, very, very important. Collaboration, understanding how to work with other people, very important, right? And persistence and grit. Life is gonna freaking knock you down, and it's about getting back up more times than you get knocked down. Choose one of these skills, or choose one skill to work on per quarter. 20 minutes a day, super focused. Read, buy 5 books on the specific skill you're gonna learn, and go deep. Get an accountability partner. We're gonna, which we're gonna talk about at the very end. Only through practice can you improve, of course. Now, let's go to number 3, very important one, money management. And I'm gonna dive into 4 simple tips to create wealth creation. Number 1 is track every single dollar monthly. If you don't have QuickBooks connected to your business checking account or your personal accounts, it's the easiest freaking thing in the world. It's very affordable. I don't have an affiliate code. I've just been using them for 10 freaking years. It's much easier to just be like, oh, how much money did I make? Scroll up. Oh, I made X amount of money. I spent X amount of money. My profit was X. You need to know if you have a profitable business. Biggest mistake real estate agents make, okay, investors make, is that they look at their checking account to gauge how well they did last month. Do I have more money in my checking account? Do I have less money in my checking account? That is not how an entrepreneur, a seasoned entrepreneur, does business. We have something called a P&L. We actually talk about P&Ls all the freaking time when it comes to underwriting properties, but you don't even do your own personal P&L. Every month you have a personal P&L. I made my gross income. I have some expenses, just like a property, right? I got expenses, and this is my net income, right? You're not going to ask what your cap rate is, but you are going to say, hey, based on my net income, am I positive? Am I negative? Wait, how much more money can I add to my checking, my savings, my investments? You need to know this. And the easiest way to do this, very easy. I have Chase, and Chase makes it really easy. I literally just set up an automatic withdrawal, a personal way for me to save, right? Not only do you want to track every dollar, but which is very important, you want to track every single dollar where it's going, spent, saved, invested. You want to know everything here, but you want to also find a way to cut expenses. You have a goal to cut expenses every month. I look at my statements every month. What did I spend stupid money on? But my favorite one is the 20% monthly savings. Every commission check, every deal that gets closed and money gets deposited into my checking account, right? My business checking account, 20% of that off the top, my Chase account automatically withdraws that money and puts it in a separate account. Before I do anything, before I touch money, before anything happens, it's auto withdrawal. Any deposit, if it's $10 or $1 million gets deposited into my account, immediately 20% is taken off the top and is put into a separate account. Because guess what? During tax time or during when I want to invest in properties, that other account, I'm not even taking or touching my business accounts. This account's got cash in it, and I'm ready to go. Okay? Number 2, cash is king. But this isn't the whole picture. It's very important to realize cash is absolutely king. I'm a huge fan of saying you need to have a lot of cash on hand, but there's a lot of people who haven't even solved the first challenge of money, which is get to a survival account with 6 months of income in it. Or 6 months of expenses in it. The goal is to get 6 months of monthly bills, monthly expenses in a survival account, and then we can start talking about investing. You can't start talking about investing your next dollar or when my first investment property is going to happen. It's hard to talk about that when you don't have a survival account. Get to just 6 months. Because it will allow you to sleep easy at night. Like it allows you to have the easiest night's sleep of your life. If you're not there, this is goal number 1. 2025 should not be about buying your first investment property. It should be first get to a survival account with 6 months of income. Ideally for me, I like to be at around 12 months. It makes me sleep better. It also makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. And then every other dollar, I just, anytime I go below my 12 months, I just refuel it back to 12 and I can invest every dollar on top of that because I know my family's taken care of. Number 3, wealth is created through owning something of value. If you want to become wealthy, rich is about active income, okay? Rich is about earning a lot of money on a monthly basis from doing your active things, right? Wealth is only created through owning assets or taking cash that you've saved and then investing it into an asset. Active income can obviously only do so much. Active income can make you rich, but by owning assets, that's the only way that can make you wealthy. So if you've already checked the box of your survival account, your survival number is checked, right? If you're $5K a month in expenses per month, you have $30,000 in the checking account. If it's $10,000 a month, it's $60,000. Do your own math, do your thing. But that's done. Let's say that box is checked. Now every other dollar and every commission check you earn, think about how interesting this is. Let's say your monthly bills are $10,000 a month and you have $60,000 saved and you have a big commission check coming up, guys, right? Big commission check, it's coming in $50K, $100K, $200K. You're so excited and it's about to close. Guess what you can do? You can take that entire check and you can invest it in a real estate deal if you wanted to. You can invest it in that deal because you don't need it. You already have your checking account filled to what you need it to be. Or you can take one more month, right? Let's say your bills are 10 grand, like we just said, get 60K in that checking account. You can take an extra 10K and invest the 90,000. You can invest 90,000 of it right away. You don't even need to take the check. I'll just roll the money into the deal. If it's a great deal and I think that there's, the person buying it, I want to be in partnership with them. But this is what happens to me now all the time. I now have choice where I don't even need to take the check. I can just roll it into the deal because I don't need it because my survival account is full. Because once you get to 6 months or 12 months in that account, you actually don't need more cash. There's no need for the cash because you would just be investing it in the next deal anyways. And number 4, invest in what you know. So many people don't understand what Bitcoin is, but they see everyone in the world making money on it. So they're like, shit, I have to get involved. Or, again, it's even people who don't understand, the stock market. Everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna invest in Tesla because it's going up. That's not why you should invest in a stock because it's going up, right? That's at least not the philosophy that I have. It's a long-term strategy. Of course, it should go up. I'm not saying you don't invest in stocks that go down. I'm saying you invest in a company long-term, real estate, long-term. It's a 10, 20, 30, 40-year plan to become wealthy. The reason why people are worth millions of dollars or tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars is because they've invested in an asset or assets and they've been invested for a very long period of time. It's about length in the asset, right? Length of time owning the assets, not how many assets you own, right? Because both are important. Sorry, both of them are important. But too many people get involved. They invest in one piece of property and then they sell it, like they flip properties, right? They get, everyone hears someone buying, and flipping houses or flipping commercial properties that create tax taxable events. Yes, it creates active income. It's no longer wealth building strategies. So it's about being invested in as many assets as you can for as long as you can. That's the strength of investments. Now, obviously, invest in what you truly understand. I don't try to tell people to invest in freaking crypto. I'm not saying I don't believe in it, but it's not something I truly understand. I truly understand commercial real estate better than most people in this world. So I invest in commercial real estate because I can get outsized returns there, plus amazing tax benefits. I like to invest because I feel like I have an unfair advantage to the marketplace. You can literally do insider trading for commercial real estate, and it's not illegal. I mean, it's the freaking craziest thing in the world, right? Obviously, I invest in real estate because it's what I truly understand. Now, what do you know better than most people? You can write in the chat down below. What do you know better than most people? And for you, if it's crypto, I don't even know why you sell commercial real estate, because you should probably not be in the industry. For me, it's real estate. That's why I'm in this industry. Invest in that one thing. If you know stocks better than most people, you should be investing in stocks. If you know real estate, invest in real estate. If you know whatever, you invest in whatever, right? Whatever that is. With my grandparents, is that they didn't understand how the stock market worked, but they found somebody who knew the stock market, right? And they invested in somebody. Invest your money with someone. If you don't know much about investing, which is also okay, you can invest with somebody who knows more than you, who understands things better than you in this industry. Totally okay. But do not invest because of a lake, you like that? Lake of understanding. A lack of understanding. Don't invest because of a lack of understanding. Because too many people don't invest because they don't know. We'll find somebody who knows and invest with them. Pillar number 4, environment. External and internal environments are very crucial. There's two different types of environments, external and internal, right? We have an internal environment inside our heads, and we have an external environment where we work, how we work, where we do it. So external, the people who you spend the most time with, obviously we've all talked about this before. If 5 people believe X, you will become the 6th. And then external also is the places in which you consume content or spend your time. External, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 rule, right? 1/3 of your time should be spent with people who are ahead of you. 1/3 of your time should be spent at people at your level, and 1/3 of your time should be spent supporting people below you, at levels below you, to help them out and grow them, right? Number 2 is places. Social media is meant to be used, not abused. It's a drug, right? Guys, all the content I post on social media, I create the content, my team posts it. I don't even watch my own content, right? The only content I watch online, my entire feed is just comedy, right? I like watching comedy at night with my wife. Don't use the drug, right? Like, I don't know what the frick the saying is, right? Like, don't use your own stash, right? Whatever the heck it is. Social media is literally a drug, right? And too many people abuse their own supply. Do not use, you can use social media for our benefit and create opportunities in business and other things, but you don't utilize it where it consumes your life. Like we said, don't abuse it, post on it, don't consume it, physically be in a place also that supports growth. So when it comes to where you are selling, like I live in South Beach, Miami. It's the most beautiful place on earth. I love it here. The weather makes me happy, makes my wife happy. I live in a great place because it supports my growth and external growth. Internal environments. You have your emotional home and your physical health. Very important. So for your emotional home, what's your most common, right? What is your common emotional state? Are you constantly in a state of anger, fear, stress, abundance, doubt, joy, excitement, or gratitude? What is your emotional home on a regular basis? Where do you feel like you typically land on this emotional state? How do you feel, or how do you feed your soul? How do you feed your mind, right? What do you consume? Are you constantly around bad influences, right? Or are you around positive influences, right? Do you do, what kind of inner work? Are you invested in yourself? What is the story you tell yourself over and over and over again? For me, when I was younger, going through my depression, because it was almost 10 years of suicidal thoughts, I attempted on my life 3 times. I was depressed beyond belief. And for me, all I kept saying, my running story in my head was, I just want to be worth a damn. That's it. I wanted to be worth something to somebody, but I didn't have enough self-worth, realizing like I do today, my self-worth is based on how I see myself. Because I lived in a emotional state of anxiety. My emotional home was anxiety, stress, fear. I didn't have any gratitude, 0 gratitude. I had nothing to be excited about. I did not feel an ounce of abundance, and I felt 0 joy, right? And by the way, there's a lot of people who can feel the same exact way, and obviously that's why nothing was happening in my life. Now you have internal environments of your physical home. How do you physically feel? Do you feel 100%? Do you allow yourself to feel not 100% and then solve that issue? And how do you feed and fuel your body? Are you fueling your body garbage food? Are you not paying attention to your diet? Are you not paying attention to your weight? Are you not paying attention to, because here's the cool thing. When you're in great shape, you feel better and you perform better. When you go on a meeting to a client meeting and you show up and you're in fantastic shape, it is amazing how people will view you differently. This person has discipline. I like that. This person has grit. This person has focus, and I like that. It actually has surprisingly come up many, many times in my life when you meet with people. Number 5 is mindset. The way that you think influences your actions. Very important thing here, which is how you break down all the different influences in your life, because the way you think, we must think it before we can be it. And once you can be it, right, we must become before we do it. So if you have a thought, like you have an imagination, hey, I want to make $1 million, you then need to act and be like somebody who earns $1 million, right? Before we can then do it and then perform on the things that will make us $1 million before then we can have the $1 million, right? Because we can only have when we think, be, and do. So let me explain a little bit. How we think influences our results in our life. So let's talk about thinking. We are most often the ones who limit ourselves the most. We are the ones with a lid over our potential. That is us the vast majority of the time, okay? Now, if someone asked you what you're capable of achieving, how would you respond to that? If I asked you right now, what are you actually capable of achieving in 2025? Many of you would say 100 grand. 250 grand, 500 grand, $1 million, whatever your number is. Well, then some of you, what's crazy, right, is that some of you put down how much money you want to make next year. Do you actually realize you are capping your potential when you say that? Why can't you make more money? Why couldn't you make an extra 5%, 10%, 50%, 100% more than you're thinking you could make? Why did you respond that way? And I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just what you say, right? And it's interesting and you have to take it as feedback. How did I even come up with this number? Oh, it's all freaking make-believe, right? It's literally all conditioning from when we were a child. It's all of it. Like, if you haven't made 100 grand before, everyone always says they want to make $100,000. It's like the first thing all the goals that everyone wants to break, the first one's 100 grand. It's like, okay, once you make $100,000, it's like, oh, well, now I can do anything. Why did you feel like 100 was a limiter? It's like, okay, and then some people are like, okay, now I want to make 120. Now I want to make 150. Why are you only increasing it by a small percentage? Why not try to shoot for 250 or 500 or $1 million? Why do you say the things you say? Very fascinating stuff. Think is in longer, a lot of people think in too short of a time frame. This is why I wanted to start our entire session with our 20-year vision. Most people don't even think, more than a year in the future, right? Most people think for this weekend. I want you to start thinking in 20-year time frames. Guys, I'm on a 50-year run in this industry of commercial real estate. Okay, I'm 30 years old. I'm 10 years in. I started when I was 21 years old. I'm 10 years into that journey, and I got 40 more years to go minimum. If God gives me more years, right, that's only to 70, but if God blesses me with, my grandparents are in their 90s, if I happen to live to my 90s, maybe it'll be a 70-year run. I don't know, but I'm going with at least 50. But I think in terms of 50 years, where do I want to be in 50 years so I can accomplish it? It's a very long game of chess versus a very fast game of checkers, right? Because if you think in terms of 10x your normal thinking, the problem is that too many people think it's impossible. Too many people have these conditionings from when they were younger, and it inhibits them from creating the success that they desire. So if $100,000 is as big as you can think, I dare you to add a zero to it. Whatever your goal is for 2025, I dare you to add a zero at the end of it. And I'm not saying that maybe you accomplish it this year. What I am saying is that that number is now a possibility. I've just dropped an ounce more of possibility into your life. And every one of you listening here today is more than capable of achieving more than you could ever imagine. But the biggest challenge that I see is that most people don't accomplish their goals because of their limiters of the way that they think. Also, this breaks down to, we think about influences in our life, right? Like the way we think obviously influences other things. So let's talk about investing in mentorship, conferences, and coaching. So many people never take the first jump into investing in themselves. Guys, we are the greatest investment vehicle we could possibly invest in. Every dollar you invest in you can get a 5 or 10 times multiple in 1 year, right? If you spend hypothetically $1,000 investing in yourself, that will probably help you make $10,000 back. So if you invest $10,000 in your future, right, investing in yourself, you can make $100,000 back. If you invest $100,000, right, in your future, you can make $1 million back or millions of dollars back. Because imagine this, you invest $10,000 in learning how to make an extra $100,000 per year. Guys, that's 10 grand one time to make an extra $100,000 every year for the rest of your career. That's a sick investment, right? I'll make that investment every day of the week. Now, it's just a matter of saying, how much more money can I throw into this machine? Us, me, the vehicle, you, the vehicle, right? If we are the investment vehicle, how much more money can I put into this magical machine, you, and it will just consistently spit out money for the rest of your life. That's the investment I'm talking about today in this workshop. Elevate your circles. Elevate your way of thinking. Guys, in 2025, at the end of next year, you might have less friends, right? If you want to make more money, you might have less friends. If you want to make more money, you might have less acquaintances. To make more money, you might, I'm saying might, by the way, you might have less of an inner circle. And that's okay. Because I'm going to tell you, as you grow, you will have different friends. You create different relationships because you start to think differently and want to align with different people. Because the people in your life that have gotten you here might not be the people who will get you here. And you need to be paying attention to that. Do you need to elevate your circle? Self-development, right? Taking time to invest in your mind and consume the product, really. Like, how much are you actually reading? How many books have you read recently? How many, podcasts are you listening to? The content that you're listening to, it's good, but realize that, it's not going to be the only thing that changes your life. Reading, audible books, podcasts, etc., obviously. Now let's talk about B. Shifting the story in your head is going to be one of the greatest changes in 2025 to your bottom line, period, end of story. This is going to be one of the greatest things you could possibly do for yourself, which is, what is the freaking story inside your head? My story was, I want to be worth a damn, and now I say I am because I say so. The new story I say, right, instead of saying I want to be worth a damn, is I'm worth a damn because I say so. I'm not enough. Another thing I used to say all the time, and is to say I'm not good enough versus I am enough because I say so. I am the greatest. Your internal mantra is the music you dance to. So if in your head you're saying, I'm not enough, I can never accomplish X, Y, and Z, that's not me, I can't do this, or this, that's just not who I am, guess what? That is a bullshit story you've been telling yourself over and over and over and over again, and it's on replay in your head. How far and how successful do you think you could possibly be if you were saying every day in your mind, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to accomplish it, it's not going to happen to me, there's just no way. How successful do you think you're really going to be when you are your worst enemy? It's hard, right? You got to fight you every day? Come on now, you want to be your biggest cheerleader. Even if you're not where you want to be today, that's okay. Guys, we just talked about a 20-year vision. If we give ourselves enough time, anybody can accomplish anything. Now let's talk about do. Do and do a lot, okay? Because if you want, again, what 1% of people have in this world, which is a multi six-figure income or a seven-figure income, which again, 1% of this world has. 1% of this world has a multi six-figure income, right? And when I say, a 1% income, I think it's like somewhere around 400 to 600 grand a year. If you want to make, let's just call it 500K a year. If you want a 500K a year net income, you understand, you have to do something that 99% of people aren't willing to do. You have to make sacrifices that the 99% of other people aren't willing to make. Are you actually prepared to do that? Right? And the more that you desire, the more you want to create, the more you might have to sacrifice and the more you might have to do. Keep that in mind. The more you're going to have to sacrifice. And only through doing can we see a change in results. And through doing, we can learn. And through repetition, which is the mother of skill, because you can make calls one time. We've all had a day where we made 300 calls, 500 calls, 700 calls in a day. And you're like, I feel accomplished. Right? I generated 3 leads. I maybe wrote up 1 offer. If you do it just one time, it doesn't mean much. It's the differentiator of the person who does it once and the person who does it every freaking day until they make the result they desire. And be intentional with the work. There is no trying, guys. You can't try to be pregnant. You're either pregnant or you are not pregnant, right? A woman cannot say, I'm trying to get pregnant, right? Everyone's saying, I'm going to try to have a kid next year. You either are going to have a kid, I want to have a kid next year. That is part of the plan. So we are going to get pregnant next year. That is the plan. So it's keep in mind, when you say things, It's not about trying. I'm not going to try. I'm going to do it until it happens. And I will do what is required to achieve my goal. I will do what is required to achieve my goal. We are not people, especially if you're watching this here right now with me today. If you're watching this, then you feel the same. We are not people who try. We are not people who just give it our best shot. We will do it until shit happens. We will do it until the result occurs. We will do it until I achieve my goal. If you have the level of thinking, right? If you have enhanced your level of thinking, that will enhance the way you be as internally in you, and you exercise on the level of doing, you will have and create any results you want. Now, here's the cool thing. I wanted to put parentheses on this because if you want to create more, you have to do one of two things. Either enhance the way you think and be, or do more. And if you do both to the best of your ability, this is where you create unbelievable freaking results in your life. Last part is systems. Let's break down let's get down to business here. Business systems that drive revenue, okay? Sales systems. So this is, if you have not written out everything from literally the hello to sale, the first time you ever meet somebody, or to sale, right, or to enrollment, right? This is everything from A to Z in your process. How can you enhance your process when it comes to sales? Business expansion, the big expansion moves. So let me explain what that means. What big shifts can you make in your business that will make a 5%, 10%, 20, 50, 100% multiple in your business, increase in your business? And we'll talk about that. Marketing systems, how we show up online. Operational systems, how do we do everything? How we do absolutely everything. Like, this is standard operation agreement, so that when you hire somebody, you just literally can hand them a document that says, hey, your job responsibilities are X, Y, and Z. This is how you do X, Y, and Z, and they can just follow it to a T. Do you have systems broken down so simply that somebody random can come into your business and just read your process and be able to execute? And a power schedule. When we get to do everything, everything gets to be in your schedule. We'll break it down. So let's start with sales systems. Who are we targeting? What is your client avatar? Do you guys write down your client avatar in the chat below? Who are you targeting? What price point? What location? What asset class? What type of individual owns that type of real estate in that location? Who are you specifically looking for? Because the more specific you can be, the easier it is to target that individual. How do you plan on reaching out to them? Are you just doing cold calling, which is definitely a major factor in doing it? Do you track it, right? Minimum metrics to track, lead generation strategies. What are you following? What is your roadmap? What is your path to success, right? Because the cleaner and more specific that you can be, the easier it is to accomplish the goal. Let's go to the next part. And then for sales systems, Alex Hormozy talks about this. I thought it was brilliant, so I want to shout him out. I want to repeat it. Business systems that drive revenue. So let's talk about sales systems. And there's only so many ways that you can generate results right now. Cold one-to-one, which is cold calling, right? You are cold emailing. Cold one-to-one is direct outreach to one specific individual. Cold one-to-many, which is marketing of any sort, right? Cold marketing, which is literally, I don't care if you're doing Facebook ads, SEO, paid advertising of any fashion, you're doing a billboard, right? Any type of paid advertising is cold one-to-many. Warm one-to-one. This is your sphere of influence. Going through your database, calling every single person in your database, right? Making sure every single person is called, right? Direct one-to-one. People that you already know, warm one-to-one. Warm one-to-many. This is now doing, when you're reaching out to specifically through social media, when you're posting on social media, you're reaching out to a warm audience, right? Your email list. You've collected a lot of emails. These people know you, like you, trust you. You send out an email. They all know who you are. You set up a networking event and you invite all your professional relationships to the networking event. That's warm one-to-many. Choose one of these things. Now, obviously, I talk about cold calling a lot, so we do a lot of cold one-to-one. Choose one of these and do metrics of 100. Have 100 conversations a day. Cold one-to-many. Spend, for paid advertising, spend $100 a day. Become the best of this one thing. Focus on this one activity and be the greatest of all time. Be the greatest that you can be at this one thing, and do this consistently for the next 2 to 5 years or till you receive the results you're looking for. Too many of us are trying to do every single one of these things on this list. Choose one and go be the freaking greatest of all time. Choose one and do it the best you can possibly do for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Again, if you need to scan the, if you did not get the business tracker, you can scan it again here. We talked about that earlier. If you did not get it already, you can scan it right here again. And you could just, again, you're just going to track everything. How many calls did you make? How many conversations? How many leads? Appointments, what your sales were. Track it, because what you do not track cannot grow, right? If you track it, it will grow. It's like the dollars in your bank account. It's like your weight, whatever you want it to look like, you can control it when you track it. Let's talk about business expansion systems. Who would 10x your business tomorrow, right? Very important question. If you needed to do 10 times the business next year, what is one relationship that you could have that would 10x your business next year? Who, not what. Who could 10x your business next year? So I'll give you an example. Well, I'm sure if you could find the biggest investor in your marketplace, because there are somewhere between 5 and 10 investors in every marketplace around the world who invest the most, the biggest investors in every marketplace. And if you built a relationship and they became your client, to give you the state of New Jersey as an example, there's one person who bought 35 properties last year. One person bought 35 properties last year. If I got one person to add an extra 35 closings to my bottom line, that wouldn't 10x my business, but that definitely would freaking help. That might 10x many of your businesses right now. And it's about saying, who are they and how can I find them? Where are they, right? How do I target that person? What offer or partnership strategy can I set up with that individual so that we can both succeed at a high level? Strategic planning. Grandmaster 15 moves ahead. Are you thinking, Patrick Bet-David talks about your next 5 moves. He talks about being a grandmaster, how a grandmaster thinks 15 moves ahead, right? In chess, 12 to 15 moves ahead. Are you thinking 15 moves ahead right now? Are you thinking about 20 years in the future, right? Creating partnerships, chickens versus eggs. Let me explain what this means. An egg is a lead, but chickens can lay eggs, which means they can give you a lot of leads. So who is a professional relationship? This is kind of like what I was taught from my mentor, right? Because you can have professional relationships that give you a bunch of leads. You can have a lender that gives you a bunch of leads, a title company, a contractor, or any type of people, professional relationship you could have that can give you a bunch of leads. So would you rather be given a lead or be given a professional relationship who can give you a lead a week? And how can you be focused on that specifically? So where are your chickens out there? Find your chickens, right? Creating systems. Everything should be done using a system. When you're using a system, which means, hey, I just have a process. So when it comes to lead generation, my VA pulls a lead list. She imports it into Mojo. I then call the list in Mojo. Then and I'm talking about as an agent on my team. They call through Mojo. They click one button in Mojo to then import that lead into Follow Up Boss. It goes immediately into Follow Up Boss. They don't even need to, they don't need to touch anything whatsoever. It goes right into our CRM system. All those leads are organized. Right now that it's like, okay, well now that lead's generated, then we have to present them an offer. How do we come up with the offer that we generate? Well, we follow a specific formula. Great. We present the offer. How do we get the highest results on our offers that we submit? Well, we draft a letter of intent every single time, or a PSA. We even write purchase and sale agreements to present to them. So it goes right into contract. How do we, and you write down the whole entire process and you just follow the gameplay. Okay, delegation rule. If you want to make $100,000 a year, that's $50 an hour. So if it's something that if you want to make $100,000, then if something you're doing right now, you could delegate for less than $50 an hour, you probably should do that. And you could start with hiring one simple VA, which at this point I have over a dozen VAs in my business right now because it's infinitely more profitable than hiring several employees at 40 or 50 or 60 grand a year. I mean, especially here in South Beach, Miami, I'm going to pay minimum pay here. You're going to be paying someone $100,000 a year just to live here, right? It's ridiculous. I would never, it's just this crazy amount of money. So you can hire a VA for like $1,000 a month, $500 a month. It does not have to be expensive. But you can delegate things like pulling lead lists, importing leads, organizing your lead list, making sure everybody's on a campaign. You can delegate the things that don't actually make you the money that you desire. Now, tracking and predictive analytics, if you want it to grow, you must track it. The past will predict the future. And obviously, if you're not using things like ChatGPT and all the other AI programs, you're missing out. Marketing systems. Marketing models, very important. If you're not on social media, no one can find you. Today is not about having a website. It is about being on social media. Who is someone that you can model? And this is a very simple way, and this is what I did. I found the 5 people I want to model my content, my brand after, and I modeled what they did, and I'm still doing this to this day, and I'm constantly saying, okay, going into 2025, 26, 28, 30. By 2030, what do I want my brand to look like? I have 3 or 4 or 5 people that I'm like, I want my brand to look like this. And I just model what they do. Create a game plan for the content. Guys, if you don't plan it, it will not happen. When to create, post, who posts it, you guys can hire VAs to do all this type of stuff. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you decide to go big on social media. I waited way too long to start building my brand the way I'm doing it online. There's a way to do it for like literally less than $1,000 a month. You can record some content and post it. It does not have to be flashy, perfect, whatever. The point is be online. Operational systems. What do you do more than 1 times per day? Obviously, you should be delegating that, right? If it's, it's a crazy amount of things that you have to do like several times a day, like checking emails, you don't need to be the one checking your emails every day. Obviously, you can hire VAs or administrative assistants to handle a lot of their things. Like my team, they don't have to handle anything with transaction management. 100% of transaction management is handled for them. I mean, think about how annoying it is to have to be the one who's called to coordinate inspections, appraisals, the whole 9 yards, but I just want to be focused on prospecting. Automate or delegate. Either automate the process with a software or delegate it to an assistant of some sort. Hire a VA for literally like $4 to $6 an hour. They can literally do $100 or $200 a month worth of work. It doesn't need to be $1,000. It could be a lot simpler. The point is too many people for operations. They don't follow a standard operation procedure. They don't have SOPs. They just wing their business. If you're going to wing your business, you're not going to make more than $100,000 a year. Power schedule. Let's break it down. Quick tips. Daily 15-minute meetings. Every single morning, we try to do at least every one of my team. We have a 15-minute meeting every morning. And if you don't have a team, but just by yourself, you can do a 5 or 10-minute meeting with yourself. Go through all your all the metrics you've been tracking. Where am I at so far? What's going on, right? And you can do a weekly meeting for 1 hour with yourself, 30 minutes with yourself. Review your QuickBooks. Go through your statements on your bank. What's going on in my business? Where can I cut expenses? Where can I make adjustments? Prospect for 2 to 3 hours minimum a day minimum, okay? If you're new to the business, I'd recommend 3, 4, 5, or 6 hours. If you've been in the business and already make $200,000 or $300,000 a year or more, you could probably get away with 2 to 3 hours. Never take a meeting before 12 noon. My biggest pet peeve, period, for anybody on my team is literally stop taking meetings in the middle of the day. It pisses me off. Why on planet Earth are you meeting somebody at 11:30 in the morning? It makes no sense. You go on your meetings when your job is done. Because in my opinion, your entire day until roughly 4-ish o'clock in the afternoon, the whole purpose of your day is to be generating opportunities and then calling up buyers to generate offers on those opportunities, right? You have lead generation, offer generation all day freaking long. If you want to go meet with a client, which you should, you do that after business hours. You do it after 4 o'clock. You do all your meetings after 4 o'clock. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. Cut all meeting times in half, by the way. So if you're scheduling time to meet with somebody, say 30 minutes instead of an hour. Instead of 30 minutes, you say 15 minutes. Be sharp and very deliberate with your time. It's very important your focus. So when people call me, I'm like, hey, listen, I got 5 minutes for you. And listen, even if you have more time, I just want to be more focused with saying like, hey, the more time you give someone, the less time you have for everything else. So the way we speak is very important. Double down on high dollar per hour activities and cut back on all lower dollar per hour activities. So what makes you the most money in this business? Being on the phones, generating leads, being on the phones with buyers, generating offers, or negotiating deals. That's it. There's 3 really main activities. It's on the phone generating leads, on the phone generating offers, or negotiating a deal. That's it. I don't show my own properties, people. I don't show my own properties. I hire an agent. I have an agent on my team. Go to the property to show it for me. I don't need to be there. I don't need to hold my buyer's hand and walk him and tour him through the property. He doesn't give a shit. They're very seasoned investors. They've seen a freaking commercial property before. You don't need to point shit out. These are seasoned people. They own many properties most of the time, right? You don't need to hold their hand and point at things. There's no reason for you to be there. You can, my assistant can schedule the meeting. My agent can go do the tour. That's it. And I want to double down on activities that make me the most money. I spend my entire day generating leads, recruiting agents, negotiating deals. That's it. That's my entire day. That's my entire day. Okay, power schedule. Let's break it down exactly. In the morning, I have a morning meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can do, if it's by yourself, it's 8 to 8:05, 8 to 8:10. We do red flags immediately. I have a deal falling apart. I got to get an LOI out. I promise this. I promise that. Whatever needs to be done right away to make sure your day is going to go smoothly. You handle all red flags first, and you start ripping through all your red flags in the morning. As soon as you're done with your red flags, you get right into prospecting from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is lead gen. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to go out for lunch. You guys are at the office. Like, oh, yeah, you guys want to go out for lunch? Let's go spend an hour and 45 minutes at lunch jerking each other off. That makes no sense. Guys, it's just stupid. Stop wasting freaking time. Guys, I sit at my desk and eat. Why on planet Earth am I trying to just go spend an hour and 45 minutes with colleagues? They're not making me money. Come on now. There's absolutely no point in doing that. I want to go. I want to get to work. I want to do my work. And if I'm not going to work, I want to be with my wife and with my dog, right? Like, if I'm not working, I want to be with my family. I'm not going to go hang out with, my coworkers for no reason. Eat with a prospect. If you want to go out for lunch, go eat with a prospect or eat at your desk. The rest of the day from 1 to 4 is pitching deals and offer generation. Lead generation in the morning, offer generation in the afternoon. Or if you don't have any deals to make offers on, guess what? Get back to freaking prospecting. And like we talked about, you do all client meetings or professional relationship meetings from 4 to 8 o'clock at night. And then you just do the same shit the next day. Don't get fancy. Boring scales, right? Simplicity scales. Fancy shit fails. It doesn't need to look sexy. My life is not sexy, but it sure makes a ton of money. Now it's time for accountability. I want everyone in this group, if you can start finding accountability partners right now, take some time, reach out in the chat, direct message each other, post in the chat, hey, I'd like to have a partner, whatever, fine. You can do it on the WhatsApp. You can do it in this Zoom chat right now. Everyone here, if you're live, and by the way, they don't even need to be on this Zoom call. It could be a person in your life. It does not matter. The point is, have somebody that you're going to have as your accountability partner. Find somebody, whether you're on this Zoom call or you're watching this, at a later time. Text 3 people right now. Hey, I have a huge goals for 20. I'm literally telling you exactly what to say to people. Call or text 3 people right now and say, hey, I have huge goals for 2025 and I'm looking for a great accountability partner. Are you looking for accountability in 2025? You can text 3 people. You're going to get maybe 3 different responses. You're going to choose one great person at least, and you're going to work with them as your accountability partner for 2025. I'm going to leave this up so you know exactly what to say. You can take a picture of it. All I'm telling you exactly what to text these freaking people, okay? Text 3 people, because if you text 1 and they say no, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, I don't have an accountability partner. Nobody wants to do with me, and now your stories are bullshit, and the whole thing just goes bullshit, right? Text 3 people, you're probably going to get 1 person, or I would even say text this exact sentence to enough people until you get an accountability partner. How's that? Now it's time for Q&A. Jesus Christ, we made it to the very end. I want to take some time for all of you guys here today. We have plenty of time to go through Q&A. Who's got some questions for us today? Garth, how we doing, my friend? You're the first one to raise your hand.
Hey, I'm doing good. So I just I was able to find a retail seller, but then found out really he's more of a buyer, and he gave me kind of what his buying box looks like, and I was able to find it exactly. Then I basically compiled it, put it together, sent it over to him, and he said that's exactly what he's looking for, but he needs to talk to his CPA and stuff like that. That was yesterday. How do I go about reaching out to him to execute on an LOI without seeming like I'm, being needy or something? Because obviously I don't want them to sell it to somebody else, but also,
yeah, what's a very important thing to do in this business is constantly, Alex Hormozi calls it BAM fam, book a meeting from a meeting, but constantly setting your next call with the person, right? So when you're saying look, I got to speak to my accountant. Completely understand. I'd do the same exact thing if I were you. When do you think you'll have that conversation with him so that I know when to call you back? So it's constantly being on top of these people, because so many people are going to give you the same runaround. I got to speak with my attorney. I got to speak with my accountant. I got to speak with my partners, right? All this type of stuff. Always be like, okay, great. Completely understand. I would recommend that too. Is this something you can do today, or is that something you plan on doing in the future? What's your time frame look like to accomplish that? It's like, oh, well, I can speak to my accountant on Thursday. Okay, great. So that means, just to clarify, you're going to speak to your accountant on Thursday. Should I call you Thursday afternoon, or would Friday morning be better for you, so that we can discuss the letter of intent? And constantly doing that every time, because you're going to hear that same exact excuse 100 times.
Makes sense.
Okay, but you're constantly putting the next thing. So when you accomplish that, when can we get back on the phone to discuss an offer to write up to submit to the seller, to discuss the letter of intent, to discuss an offer, right? So you're constantly putting that in their mind of like, hey, that's the next step.
Okay,
right?
so what do I do now that I don't already have something set to talk to him about?
You can easily. So you just spoke to him yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
You can easily just send him a text, be like, hey John, it's Garth. We spoke about the property 123 Main Street. I know you said you wanted to speak to your accountant. Just so that I'm clear and that I don't bug you, when did you plan on speaking with your accountant so we can plan a call afterwards? That's it.
No, thank you.
You got it. Alex says, is it a bad idea to start prospecting at 8 a.m.? No, absolutely not. Back in the day, I would start prospecting at 7:30 in the morning.
How does it usually look? So let's say you have a really good property and a buyer who wants that property. How do you kind of work in the compensation structure, within the deal?
So what we try to do is we get a gauge of where the seller's at price-wise. That's always number one. You always want to know, like, hey, like, again, I say this a lot, which is like, is this a property that we can transact on, right? Are we in a ballpark figure financially, right, price-wise, that we believe that we can actually transact on this asset? If that is the case, let's say we're in a price range that actually we feel is fairly comfortable and we have a buyer who, let's just say, can pay somewhere in that ballpark, right? Seller wants $2 million, buyer's willing to pay 1.8, right? And then I'll give you an example of a different. In that example, what I will do is that I will present an offer to the seller, right? If they want $2 million, I will now offer them $1.8 million with a 6% commission on it. What happens is that in this instance, they're going to counter, right? They'll say like, look, the best number I'll do is 1.9 million net, right? Seller will say, I need 1.9 million net to me after commission, right? Like that's a possibility. So that means they actually need 2 million. So then what can happen is that now you can go back to them and say, hey, I have an offer for you at 1.9, 6% commission. They're like, look, my bottom line's 185 net to me. And you can now have a decision. Will I take 50K or do I get my buyer up to 195 and I can make 6%? And you get to have these kinds of conversations constantly. And it's this constant battle of saying, okay, if my seller needs to net this, I need to be here, right? Like, net this, I need to be here to make sure I make the delta. Which, by the way, I want to be very clear. It's not like every single property I make 6%. That is a load of crap, right? That is just not the actual facts, right? We make, like, I think our average for last year was like 4.3%. I know it's just under 4.5. If that's the case, there are plenty of deals that like we only make 1% on. Plenty of deals that we only make 1% on. And then there's a lot of deals that we make 6% on, right? And it just ranges. So it's just, we try to, obviously, we want to make the most money on every deal, but we're not greedy. If we only can make, because like the seller's stuck here and the buyer's stuck here and we can only make 1 point, we make 1 point. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'd rather take a deal and make some money versus not make any money. It's kind of that constant dance.
The NOI or the LOI and then making it make sense from there.
Yeah. So in the letter of intent, we always put 6% commission straight off the bat, no matter what. And then I will allow them to counter me. Everyone's like, oh, I don't know if they're going to be willing to pay me 6%. Put it in the letter of intent and let them say something about it. I'm not going to assume that they won't pay me. And even if someone says I need to net 2 million, I'll still offer them 1.6 million at 6% commission because you just don't know, right? If my buyer's willing to pay 1.6, I'm going to do that. Who else has any questions for today about business planning, goal setting, the workshop today, questions specifically on clarity or any questions whatsoever?
I have a scenario I'm trying to work out in my head before this afternoon. I have a call with a seller of a shopping center this afternoon. We have 5 offers on the table. I told him it was going to trade somewhere in the 7 to 7.5 range. And the offers are 6.8, 7.1, 7.1, 7.3, and then one at 7.5. But I know that the buyer for the $7.3 million offer has range to come up to that 7.5 range. That one's a better buyer. And what I'm worried about is this seller saying, well, why don't we just play all these offers off of each other and have them start to compete against each other when I know that 7.5 number is their best and final for both of these buyers.
Yeah. So what you can say is like, look, let's absolutely do our best to try to work them all to get to their best and final, right? They all know, like, I definitely don't mind disclosing the fact that like we have other offers and we can try to push them all up. And we can try to present a best and final scenario where we say like, hey, we're going to do a best and final by tomorrow at 12 noon. Every single party has to present their best and final number by tomorrow at 12 noon, whether it's the same price or higher, right? Put their best foot forward. I need a full package. I need to have proof of funds for the down payment, a term sheet if they can provide it, or, any type of details around the loan they're going to get, all of it, the letter of intent, or even straight to PSA if they want to do that, right? Like all those details, the better the offer package, the better. We can review all of them together and we can actually take the best step from there. And you can look at all of them and be like, oh, the 7.5 guy is actually, he doesn't have the money, right? Like, or he doesn't own any other real estate. And the 7.3 guy might be a better deal, or the 6.8 guy might be a better, might be willing to come up to the 7.25, right? And all of a sudden he's actually the best buyer. But you can definitely do a best and final strategy and just know, like, hey, the 7.5 guy is not going to come up. That's totally fine.
I had another question.
And it's okay. Like, listen, and you can stress to the seller, like, listen, what is most important to you? Surety of closing or the best price on a letter of intent? And you want to say it that way. Surety of close, like making sure you're going to close with this individual, or the person who wrote the biggest number on a piece of paper. What's most important to you? Because I know price can sound cool, right? It's flashy and it's cool.
And he's not a super sophisticated seller. So like I've had to kind of like walk him through this. I mean, I've been talking to him for a year. Like this is something. Just
explain it that way. Surety of closing is what you want him to realize is the most important thing. Any buyer can write up anything they want on a letter of intent. It literally has no weight. It has as much weight as this Post-it note right now. You can be like, what's most important is their qualifications and ability to close.
Got you. Right? Do you give pricing guidance on best and final scenario?
Pricing guidance?
Like everybody knows where they came in at, but they're not. I mean,
you could say bluntly to the people in the sixes and be like, listen, we have people who are in the mid sevens. Like, unless you plan on paying cash and closing in 2 weeks as is, whatever, right? Like, we don't see a reason why we would ever take your offer. You could be clear with that. With anyone in the sevens, you can be like, listen, we do have higher offers than yours, but that's not the full picture, right? We need to, we care about surety of closing and the highest price and best terms. They all are going to be considered. But you can be like, I do have a higher offer than yours. And that is definitely something that the seller is leaning towards taking. So the better you can sweeten your deal, the more it'll matter.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
You got it, man. Who else has any of the questions, clarifications, business planning? Does everyone feel clear about next year? They kind of have a good baseline of where they need to be. You have your business tracker that you can literally fill out and it'll tell you exactly how many calls to make, how many leads you need to generate, the whole nine.
What's the best way to find a buyer for a specific property, just in any case?
Sure. So when you generate a lead and this works, by the way, any area in the country, okay? All you'll do simply is you either go into CoStar or Reonomy. I mean, we use Reonomy. You go into Reonomy and you can literally just see all the properties that have traded, right? That are similar to what you have, right? So if you have, somebody who has, you came across a lead, it's a multifamily property, 20 units, whatever it is. You can literally do a 1 mile, 2 mile, 5 mile radius, and you can see all the properties that are just like that, 10, 20, and obviously you want to do a bracket. Like you're not going to just look at 20 unit multis, you'll look at 10 to 40 unit multis, right? 10 to 50 unit multifamilies, right? And you'll find all of those properties that have traded within the last 12 months, 24 months. And you want to be able to find all the people who have acquired properties just like the one you have, and you'll call all of them and say, hey, I was working, my name is Alec with XYZ Brokerage. The reason for my phone call is that I'm working with a client who's looking to sell a 20 unit multifamily. And I saw that you acquired a similar asset within the last 12 months, 24 months, whatever's accurate. And I was calling to see if you might be open to buying another property, just like your property at 123 Main Street. And I'd be like, yes, no, maybe so. I'd be like, okay, just to clarify, are you in the business of looking for another property right now? Or is this something where, like, could you make sense of buying something in the next 90 days? Is this the right time for you to buy another property, right? Are you financially prepared to buy another asset, right? You want to ask them more questions, like get clarity, like, okay, just to clarify, the one you have at 123 Main Street, is that the only other multifamily you have? You want to look into some details, because if they only have one property, think about it like this. Who do you think's more likely to buy? And I'm going to make it obvious, but get your wheels turning. But who's more likely to buy? Somebody who bought a 10 or, call it an 8 unit, 2 years ago, and they have one that is the only multifamily they own, or somebody who owns 1,000 units, all ranging between 15 and 40 units or 15 and 50 units, and they've bought 6 properties in the last 6 months. Obviously the latter. So if that is the case, you can be paying attention to that, and you want to be thinking like, oh, this person only owns one freaking property. They're probably not going to be able to buy this next one. Right? Like, this is not just some seasoned real estate investor. This is a guy who happens to own 1 or 2 properties that was passed down to him from his father. Keep that in mind.
How do you actually pay yourself? I know you have a business budget. Like I have my own real estate business budget. I have my own personal home budget, both different expenses and all that. But if you get a commission check for your business, it goes in your business bank account. Obviously, you're sweeping 20% away for taxes. But like, what do you actually pay yourself, and how does that look?
Depending on how much money you make, Okay. And I would say for all of you up until making somewhere between 250 and 500 a year. Okay. And obviously talk to your accountant. I'm not trying to give tax advice and all that kind of stuff. So this is just what I have done in the past. You have two ways of doing it. You can pay yourself as distributions, which is the vast majority of the time how I pay myself is through distributions, or you can pay yourself through salary, right? Where you can eventually put yourself on payroll. Okay. And you can pay yourself a modest salary of any amount of money you desire, but also keep in mind, like, you're not going to want to do that when you might have to miss payments, right? Like miss salary payments. Keep in mind that the way to break it down, at least until you're probably, I'd say 500-ish is your ballpark, where like once you hit like 500, start paying yourself 120 a year salary. If you're making net 500 a year, pay yourself maybe, 180, 200, somewhere in that range, 120. I mean, depending on where you are, because like sometimes you don't even need all of it, right? But you're taxed differently. It will help you with tax savings. Obviously, again, talk to your accountant, but until you're even close to that, don't worry about it and just do a distribution. Take whatever money you need, the way you're going to take it anyway else, right? You have it in an LLC and you can spend the LLC cash just like it's your own. Like, it's not going to be so drastically different, at least in my experience, that it's not going to be so drastically different to just take off your distributions. If you're only making 100 or 150 or 200, just use the distributions. Withdraw money from your business checking account if it's for a personal thing, put in your personal account and then spend the money that way. Or if it's for 80% of things that can be written off, then use it for your business checking account, and you can use it, for dinners or, whatever things else that you're looking to buy. My rent doesn't come out of my business checking account, like for my, for where I live. It doesn't come out of my business checking account. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Another question too is my business thing. My biggest thing is like lead, speed to lead is the speed. I need to increase my speed in transactions and communications. I don't know if you have any advice around that, because what's happening is I have a couple buyers. All right, yeah, give me an LOI. It takes them some time to create it. It takes some time to sign it. I get it back. I get it to seller. He takes time. There's a delay. There's a lot of delay. Then I get signed LOI. I put it out to an attorney to create the PSA. It takes 3 or 4 days. Meanwhile, I got new buyers who want to see the property, want to make new offers. Is that normal, or how can I increase the speed in transaction? And same thing with sellers. I get a couple offers, some are verbal, and I'm trying to negotiate with the seller. The seller doesn't call me back. I'm playing phone tag. 2-3 days are wasted. The buyer now is not interested. It's like, how do I increase speed overall?
Yeah, great question. Number one, it's very normal. Okay, like happens to everyone, happens to me, happens to everybody. Where like everything it is a long sales cycle. So shaving a day here, shaving a day there is very important. And that's why one of the things like Garth and I were speaking about, which is BAMFam, booking a meeting book a call from a call. That would sound a lot weirder, BAMFam, book a meeting from a meeting, book a call from a call, right? So doing that is very important, right? Number one is I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I feel like people make, which is they just don't ever book the next call from that call. Like, oh, how much time do you need to review this letter of intent? How much time do you need to get me, can you sign this letter of intent? Can you sign this by tonight? Yes. Just to clarify, so you're saying you can sign this by tonight? Yes. Get confirmation that they're going to do it today, by Thursday, by Friday, whatever they're going to do. The problem is that so many people are just like, okay, like, oh, I need to talk it over with my partners. Okay, I'll talk to you later then. Thanks. Like, okay, I don't even know when to call you back. So like, it's just, the problem is like all of a sudden now you get into this weird cycle. Like, okay, well, 2 days go by. Like, should I call him? Should I not? Like, what's happening here? Like, and then you call him like, oh, I didn't speak to my partner yet. Didn't I tell you that he's on vacation till next Thursday? And you're like, next Thursday? It's fucking Tuesday. Like, I gotta wait a week and a half for this freaking response. I'm like, that's why it's just so freaking important. Because then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this guy is probably not the right buyer. I can find a new buyer. Or when you're speaking to the seller and you present an offer, like, okay, how much time? Like, you're like, I need to review this with my accountant. How soon do you plan on speaking with your accountant? I can speak to him by Tuesday. It's like, okay, you gotta get, like, that's why it's all about gauging time frames. Because the biggest pet peeve I have, even with my agents when it comes to this type of thing, is they're like, oh yeah, he said he needed some time to review it. I'm like, okay, when do you plan on calling him back? Well, he said he would call me back. No, we don't rely on anybody to ever call us back, period. No attorney, no client, no buyer, no seller, nobody, period. I don't trust anybody to call me back. I'm like, no. When do you want me to call me back? Call you at 3 on Tuesday. I can do that. Like, I need to know exactly when we are planning to have our next conversation so that I can tighten up these time frames. And even sometimes they're like, okay, well, I probably won't have an answer for you till next Monday. It's like, it's Tuesday. What do you mean you need a week? Can I just clarify why you feel like you need a week to get me a response? Well, I'm going on vacation for 4 days. Okay, well then, curious, do you feel like you can have a decision within the next 24 hours so that while you're on vacation, your attorney can have all the information? Like, and you can start asking deliberate questions. Don't be afraid to be direct. And maybe it's just because I'm a Jersey guy, and we just talk fast and we're direct as hell, maybe that helps a little bit. But like, I'm just not afraid to ask the hard question. Is this something that you feel like you can't have an answer on in the next 24 hours? Like I had a guy, I'm telling you, dude, I'm dealing with this right now. I have a guy who's trying to make an offer on a property about $13.5 million. Okay. Nice property, newer construction, whatever. Okay. Buyer would not stop giving me 1+ week time frames, turnarounds for everything. It was over. I'm like, can I just be deliberate? Do you not want the property, or do you just actually need 7 days to do X, Y, and Z? I got to speak to my accountant. I got to speak to my, my attorney. I got to speak to my partner. I got to speak. Do you actually need 7 days to do that? Because you said you needed to make 3 phone calls to me. That's what you just said. You need to make 3 phone calls. Can you make 3 phone calls today? Well, probably. I'm like, okay, well then why do you need 7 days? So like, I'm just okay with being direct. I'm okay with him saying, screw you. I'm okay with it. I'm also just okay with him saying, coming to the conclusion that he's also nuts. Because like, I'm also okay when someone says the same shit to me. Like I'll say like, oh, I probably won't have an answer for you until next Tuesday. I'm okay with someone saying, just out of curiosity, you said you need to speak to your accountant. That's 1 phone call. Like, is he not available today, tomorrow? Like, why do you need 7 days for that? I'm okay with someone coming back to me. And it's just, I think that directness is going to help you, convert and speed things up. But it's like when we're scared and we don't book the next call, all of a sudden it's 4 days, it's 8 days, and you're like, what the hell? Nonetheless of attorney review, nonetheless of all this other bullshit, but you need to make sure they use your recommended attorneys, or make sure you have great attorneys who are fast as shit. Because like we have some attorneys that we've used in the past, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, it's been 3 weeks in attorney review. I'm like, how is this possible? And my favorite part is you look at attorney review emails. It's the funniest thing in the entire world. And I don't care if attorneys are listening to this right now. I don't care. Yes, I'm talking to all of you right now. My point is like, it's like, how on planet Earth can you send 2 emails in a week? I'm like, what the The one email is like the buyer's going like, okay, do you want us to write up the email? 3 days later, yes. Are you serious? 3 days to write yes? I'm like, you could have just texted me. I would call the guy to tell him yes. Jesus Christ. Like, it's just unbelievable, but whatever.
I got one more thing for you. I want to hear your perspective on this. One thing I've realized over the years and not hitting my goals is not understanding what it actually takes to hit them. We all put these numbers out there and everything else, but we don't actually understand or have an idea of how much work or how many leads, how many conversions, how much work it actually takes to hit those goals. Yeah. I think that's, one thing I've realized is I say a lot, but I don't know what it actually takes to hit them. What is your perspective of like, if we want to make 400,000 or 500,000 net in gross commission income, how many people should be in our pipeline? Like, should we have 20, 30 in our pipeline? Should we have 50 in our pipeline? What is an actual realistic goal to get to actually hit those numbers, to have a good perspective of that?
Yeah. So let me share with you why this business tracker is actually so freaking crucial. Okay. Because I want to share with you, like, this takes that guessing out of the equation. But, and I want to stress this, so many people feel the same way you do. I don't know, a lot of people feel like this. They go, I don't know, like exactly what you're saying, I don't know what I have to do in order to actually achieve X, Y, and Z result. So what I want to show you is that this will give you that answer. Because if you want to, again, in this situation, you want to add an extra $100,000 to your bottom line net cash to your checking account next year, okay? Like here, I'll fill it out with you, right? What's your average commission check right now, percentage-wise? 3%, cool. Average deal size?
1.3.
And what's your commission? What brokerage you at?
EXP, same as you.
So 80-20, great. So 80-20 split. What's your personal bills at home?
For my business, around
everything.
8
$8,000 a month. We'll do 8,500 to be conservative. 8,500, and how much cash do you want to put in your checking account, in addition to what's there right now?
200.
Okay, an extra $200,000. Cool. Now, so it's saying that you need to earn 566,000 in GCI next year to check all the boxes, pay all your bills, pay your taxes, put $200,000 in your checking account, all that based on your averages right now. Now, like I had mentioned, it is saying that right now, based on your price point, you need to do 19 million in production, and you need to do 14 and a half deals. Call it 15 deals, right? You always round up, okay? So 15 transactions, just under 19 million. That'll at 3% commission will give you the 566 and help you accomplish your goals. Now, this will break down how many calls you need to make, how many conversations, how many leads, how many written offers, how many LOIs, and the range of hours I would recommend to prospect. What's going to happen is this. Your first quarter of this year should be reflected data-wise. All these conversion numbers should be reflective of what happened last year. So if last year, let's say, okay, ready? Let's say last year you made a total of, let's say you made 3,000 calls a month. 3,000 calls a month equals 36,000 calls for the year. Okay, let's just say you had You spoke to 10% of that. You spoke to 3,600 people. Let's say then leads, let's say it was another 10% of that. You had 360 leads. Of the 360 leads, you wrote up, let's say 36 offers. Of the 36 offers, you only got 3 accepted. You closed 3 deals last year for 1.3, I'm making this all up, 1.3 million at 3% commission, okay? Each, 3% commission each. That's 39 grand times 3. That's, let's just call it about $117,000. I'm doing quick math in my head, people, okay? So let's just say last year you made 117 grand. Average price point was 1.3, 3% commission. Now, what you know now is that you took 36,000 phone calls to close 3 deals. That is what has occurred in the past. So then you will just plug in the same exact data here. So 36,000 calls divided by 3 is 12,000 calls a month, which I was trying. Wow, that worked out perfectly. 12,000 calls a month, right? I swear I'm just a math genius or something, right? So 12,000 calls a month. Okay, great. You had 10% of the conversations. You go to 10%. It's like leads generated, another 10%. So you'll plug this in 10% over here. And then offers written. I wrote down 10%. So you'll do 10%. I mean, again, I'm going off of what hypothetically happened last year. Your LOIs executed. You only had 10% of that number. So this will break it down for you, right? And just say, okay, well, based on my past results, because the past can predict the future, this is what I have to do right now. And every single day, you'll go into the reporting and you'll plug in all your numbers, right? Everything you had every single week over and over and over and over again, and it'll total at the end, right? Hopefully these formulas are still there. I don't know if they're still there or not, but you can just do equals sum, right? Sum total of this entire line. And another parentheses, enter, right? 0, cool. So whatever, you guys can plug this all in. I'm not gonna, you guys can look it up on YouTube or whatever. It's all plugged in, right? So I just did this for right now. So my point is you'll plug it all in and you'll total it. And then you'll take the totals and you'll plug it in again for January. So now in January, so when February 1st starts, you're gonna like, oh, in January, I did X amount of activity and it created Y result. So now it's like, okay, now for February, you'll make adjustments saying, okay, I'm actually not 10%, I'm 8% here. I'm, 6.5% here, so on and so forth. And you start plugging all that in and then it will tell you like, oh, okay, got it. If I'm at all these ranges, this is what will equal X. And then the crazy thing is that it's like, okay, well, if I want to make more money, I need to just do more of it, right? Because you can see all your percentages, right? So it's like, okay, if you see that every 12,000 calls, you close a deal, great. If you did 12,000 calls a month, which is a lot, right? But if you did 12,000 calls a month, that means you would on average close 1 deal a month. So it's just, but it's backtracking all that data, right? And then it's like, okay, well, if you want to do more, right? Like, let me give you a quick example. Like these are just things I think about personally. If you want to, let's just say you want to add, you want to make $1 million next year, right? Like this is just how some people think, right? They want to go make an extra $1 million. Their bills at home are 15 grand a month or something like this. I'm making this all up, guys. Let's say your average price point is $2 million. Your 80% commission. Let's say your average commission is 4% right now. You have to do $2.2 million in GCI, close 28 transactions for $55.5 million. By the way, this is about average to one of my friends who's like, they're trying to make $1 million this year, just to give you some reference of where this is coming from. They need to do 23,000 calls a month. Do you think one person can make 23,000 calls in a month? It would be pretty difficult. It would be pretty difficult. I would be on your side, right? I agree. Unless you're making 1,200 calls a day. Probably not happening, okay? He has a team. So then he goes, oh, in order for me to do X, Y, and Z, in order for me to make $1 million, these are the metrics we need to hit. We break it down. And it's like, it can be very simplistic, right? And everything just comes down to math. And then what we're going to do in January is I said the same freaking thing to him. Plug in January's numbers and then figure it all out backwards, right? And you can figure it out. And by the way, for your calls, all you'll have to do is you edit this formula. This right now just calculates it times 10,000, right? So it's basically this number, the amount of units times 10,000 average calls a month, right? If you want to close 1 deal, about 10,000 calls per deal that you want to close, right? And you can just change this number. If you find out, like, let's say on average, you're like, oh, I only made 8,000 calls, Howie, right? And I closed 1 deal. Okay, great. You can go in here and you change it from 8,000 or 10,000 to 8,000, right? And then you can just drag it. Yeah, you're like, okay, well now I'm going to do 8,000 calls for these months, right? And you can just copy paste, right? Just that simple.
Yeah, no, that will definitely help. I got it. The key is just to track all the metrics and adjust
That's
accordingly.
the only way you'll ever know, by the way. The only way you'll ever know and how to predict, and the way Amazon or NVIDIA or Apple or any Fortune 500, any public company, the only way that, you know how they go like our quarterly estimates of what they're going to do, right? The only way they know that is because they have been tracking data so tightly They're going to be like, okay, based on these estimates, this is where we're going to be. And guys, guess what? They miss too, right? Like huge public companies miss quarterly estimates all the time. Some are above, some are below, and it's totally fine. But like without tracking the data, it's impossible to tell, because there are going to be some months you're like, oh, okay, got it. So every 12,000 calls I make, I'm going to close a deal. Okay, well then guess what? You might need to adjust your goals, right? Because depending on what you want to accomplish, you'll only be able to do X, Y, or Z. I mean, again, we just did the math for you to earn what you needed to make. I mean, let me just go back a quick minute. Hold on. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I mean, again, you have to close 15 deals next year. So that's over a deal a month. So like if you go through January and don't close a deal, you might need to make adjustments, right? If you go through January and you have 3 closings in January, you're going to make different adjustments, right? But it's all depending, and this is why tracking is so freaking important. Nobody just goes, I'm going to make $1 million next year and just randomly and randomly it happens, right? Like that's not how it ever will occur. It's like, take what you did last year, take all the analytics and plug it in, right? Do the numbers and be like, oh, okay, got it. My conversation percentage, my lead conversion percentage, all these percentages, plug it in and it will tell you what to do.
Thank you. I'll work on that.
And by the way, if you want to do let me share my screen one last time, because I think this is really important for people to see. Really quickly, the big thing that people are going to realize is that the only way to change these two numbers, right? Which means like, how do I make my goal easier to obtain, Howie, right? Like, how do I make it easier for me to hit my goals, right? Is I can do a few things, right? I can increase this commission percentage, because if I'm only doing if your average is only 3% right now, you're going to have to close substantially more real estate than somebody who has an average commission of 4 or 5%. So if you go right now, you have to do 15 deals at 19 million, right? Well, the 19 million technically doesn't change unless we do, let's say, 4%. Now it's only 14 million. I only have to do 11 deals. And it's like, okay, well, now we have 1.3 million in average deal size. Well, if you can get to 2 million, not 200, Jesus, hold on. If you get to 2 million, now you only have to do, because again, what didn't change was the percentage, right? So you still have to do 14 million, but now it's only 7 deals. And it's like, oh, okay, got it. Well, if I do 4.5% average commissions, I only have to do 12.5 million. And you can start playing with the numbers. Like, oh, okay, got it. If I want to make, more money by, quote, doing less, how do you scale your business? You need to have higher commission percentages and higher deal sizes. I mean,
yeah, I think overall that's kind of been my challenge looking back at this past year too, because I've been doing leasing, tenant rep, and landlord rep. And, obviously those are smaller deal amounts and it's eating up the same amount of time. And the same thing with buyer rep. They got me doing research and all this stuff. It's buying time. It's eating up my time schedule, which is very tight, where 100%. I should be working on bigger deals and getting more sellers.
100%. And but guess what? You're noticing it. You're like, oh, okay, got it. If I spend 17 hours here, I make X amount. If I spend 17 hours here, I make this much. It's just paying attention. And I'm not saying don't do it.
It's the things I got to start saying no to these smaller deals,
Yeah, or just delegating. Finding an agent, you can go like, hey, take 50%.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is get another agent on board to delegate the smaller stuff.
Exactly. Top 3 books.
I'm having trouble with because I know you come at it from an investor perspective.
Yep.
How do you kind of transition into adding the commission into the letter of intent? People don't think you're bait and switching them or something.
Yeah. So again, let me be clear. On a LOI that you're drafting yourself, on the starter offer LOI, you don't have to have commission on there. That could just be your LLC. And I'll be very clear, like your LLC, and make sure you're very, you're doing your numbers tightly. Like you have to be careful. Like, obviously there are risks of writing up a letter of intent. They could agree to it, which obviously you'll probably want to call me if it's a spectacular deal, or just kill the deal. Like, oh, actually we changed our mind, blah, 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 right? You have to be very careful. However, on your initial LOI, there's no commission. Like on my current ones, like the only reason why on all of my team deals, it is because my agent puts me as the buyer. They're the agent. It's kind of a little bit of adjustment.